So before we talk about hyperbilirubinemia, why don't we talk about the normal metabolism, the normal physiology of bilirubin? Bilirubin is a pigmented molecule and it naturally occurs in your bloodstream. The average person produces 250 to 300 milligrams of bilirubin a day, and the source of this is mainly from the breakdown of old red blood cells. There's also a lot of immature cells within the bone marrow that don't quite make it to maturity, and the breakdown of these immature cells is also a large source of bilirubin. All of these red blood cells, they contain hemoglobin, which is kind of the main protein that gets directly broken down into bilirubin. Turnover of other cells in your body, like muscle cells, can result in the release of the proteins myoglobin, cytochromes, which also end up being directly converted to bilirubin. But the main source of bilirubin is hemoglobin because it's such a large proportion in relation to these other proteins. So this breakdown of proteins, where does it actually occur? It occurs in the reticuloendothelial cells, essentially macrophages that line the liver and spleen. The cell depicted in the diagram between the liver and spleen is a macrophage. So when you break down hemoglobin, myoglobin, and cytochromes, you get unconjugated, aka indirect bilirubin. Indirect bilirubin is a very insoluble molecule that needs to be bonded to serum albumin. Without the bond between unconjugated, or aka indirect bilirubin, with serum albumin, unconjugated bilirubin would be insoluble and therefore impossible for it to dissolve into blood and to be transported elsewhere in the body. So it binds the serum albumin where it gets transported through the bloodstream to the liver cells, the hepatocytes, where the next steps occur. Hepatocytes, they chemically alter the molecule to make it more soluble. They chemically alter the indirect bilirubin by conjugating it. And it does this using a enzyme that you all need to know, but you don't really need to know the name of it. It's bilirubin uridine diphosphate glucuronyl transferase. There's a couple other acronyms for UDPGT, but essentially, you just have to know that there's a special conjugating enzyme that exists in the hepatocytes. So once the unconjugated bilirubin becomes conjugated, it's then excreted into the biliary system, where it eventually gets transported to the gut. And at this point in the gut, the conjugated bilirubin is broken down by gut bacteria into urobilinogens, most of which gets excreted in the stool, and the rest are passively reabsorbed into circulation. This kind of concludes the normal cycle of bilirubin metabolism.